Hi, I'm Joel Berntsen. My family and I have been part of the Be Free community since 2007. Fast forward and now it's 2020, and where do I start? It's been a difficult and trying year for many of us, to be sure. COVID, the election, civil unrest, the economy, everything seems to be building at once into a perfect storm of chaos. As I'm filming this, it's a gloomy, cold, and rainy October morning that's trying hard to distract me from the beauty of our New England fall foliage. If you find yourself questioning everything going on, you're not alone, and it's absolutely understandable to be asking things like, why am I going through this? Where is God taking me? How much longer will this situation last? What's around the corner from here? And when is the other shoe going to drop? In the book of Joshua, we find the Israelites in a similar situation. They had miraculously escaped slavery in Egypt with the anticipation of God delivering them into the promised land. But then, for 40 years, they wandered in the desert with no sense of where they were going or when God would make good on his promise. For 40 years, an entire generation. 40 years! That's longer than my life. They grumbled against God and stumbled in their faith while wallowing in self-pity and wandering through life. In Joshua chapter 3, something momentous happens. God instructed Joshua to lead his people across the Jordan River and enter the land of Canaan, his promised land to the Israelites. The Ark of the Covenant, a manifestation of God's presence, wisdom, and glory, led his people as the waters of the Jordan River receded, letting the entire camp of 3 million Israelites pass through. This was a miracle. At the time the Israelites went across the river, it was flooded, deep and wide. Scholars estimate it was 2 miles wide and over 100 feet at its deepest. I can only imagine their awestruck wonder at the greatness of God as they walked through, seeing his deliverance and faithfulness. Let's look at Joshua chapter 4, verses 1 through 7. When all the nation had finished passing over the Jordan, the Lord said to Joshua, "Take 12 men from the people, from each tribe a man, and command them, saying, Take 12 stones from here out of the midst of the Jordan, from the very place where the priest's feet stood firmly, and bring them over with you to lay them down on the place where you lodge tonight." Then Joshua called the 12 men from the people of Israel whom he had appointed, a man from each tribe. And Joshua said to them, "Pass on before the ark of the Lord your God into the midst of the Jordan, and take up each of you a stone upon his shoulder, according to the number of tribes of the people of Israel, that this may be a sign among you. When your children ask in time to come, 'What do these stones mean to you?' then you shall tell them, 'The waters from the Jordan were cut off before the ark of the covenant of the Lord. When it passed over the Jordan, the waters of the Jordan were cut off. So these stones shall be to the people of Israel a memorial forever." As we just read, God instructed the Israelites to memorialize what they saw for all of history by building a monument, so that the Israelites and their descendants can remember how God came through when it counted, when the overwhelming evidence of his goodness and might were unignorable, and it was unmistakable that this was more than just good fortune or luck. God uses moments like this to build our faith. We can lock them in our memories, allowing us to reflect back on them during times of trial and moments of doubt. In 1 Corinthians chapter 13, verse 12, it says, "For now we see in a mirror dimly, but then face to face. Now I know in part, then I shall know fully, even as I have been fully known." In my own life, I have many monuments where I can look back and see in retrospect how God's hand was guiding me. Back in 2005, I had graduated college and was working full-time at a local bank. I got off to a great start and had multiple promotions and new responsibilities given to me quickly. But over the course of a year, I started to feel like everything was collapsing around me. I had hired a new employee who I later found out was working behind the scenes to undermine my credibility and take over my role. And this ultimately resulted in me being reassigned to a new branch. In my new role, I felt like I was being set up for failure. I also really felt like I should go to grad school, but wasn't sure how I could balance that with work or how I would pay for it. One evening, I went back to visit my friends who were still in college and attended the Christian fellowship group on campus with them. At the meeting, we watched a video about an opportunity for a summer ministry program, and I felt compelled to apply, even though it would mean quitting my job and letting go of my financial security. I heard back shortly after that I had been accepted and put my notice in at work. That afternoon, when I came home, I found my acceptance letter to start grad school full-time in the fall with financial aid for my tuition. I ended up having an incredibly memorable summer of growth in my faith and built deep, meaningful relationships that I still maintain today. One of the foundational Bible passages from my life is Proverbs 3, 5, and 6. Trust in the Lord with all your heart and do not lean on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he will make straight your paths. Looking back on that period in my life, I can see that by stepping out in faith into the unknown, God paved the way for my grad school and future career opportunities. As we stumble through this time of uncertainty, I can say with confidence that Romans 8:28 is true. And we know that for those who love God, all things work together for good, for those who are called according to his purpose. God is on the job, and as we put our trust in him to endure our trials, we'll be able to look back and see that hindsight is 2020. As you go through the rest of your day, take some time to stop, reflect, and remember what God's monuments in your life are. Thanks.